And you know, like, because a lot of people are just hobbyists. You know, like we're all just hobbyists using tools that we found on the internet. So when you use an airbrush, you know, as a hobbyist, you know, you might kind of be stuck in a hobbyist way of thinking when the airbrush can do so much more than that. But that is 100% viable. But like, when I use my airbrush, it's more like I'm using a laser. So like, I may do that, but like, it's not like gonna be the foundation of my paint job ever. So typically I'm going to start dark and work my way up to red. And there's a lot of interesting ways to do red, and I've done so many of them. Check out my Patreon page. Ultra red, blue reds. But comic book Daredevil is straight up red with black lines and maybe some yellow highlights. So there's a way to do that. And he's also a dark red. So if we want to be true to the comic, I can't go into the ultra red, right? Which I love to go ultra red on things. So we have to, you know, make sure we don't, you know, accidentally make him, you know, Superman red, you know, or whatever. We got to be subtle. So I'm just going to throw some water in there. I've got a little burnt red in there. Maybe throw a little bit more in there. So the art, so okay, you think that, right? So you think what you're looking at here is something painted red and then inverted and painted black. That is just not the case, though. And that's where, like, just kind of relying on the zenithal process in general gets you into trouble. Like, first off, there's a black line here. There's a skinny black line here and here. There's no black line here. There's a black line in his crotch. There's not one here. It's almost pure black here, but only a black line here. So if you invert this guy, you start spraying in black, and you're firing it like a shotgun, you're not actually doing what you're seeing. What you're doing is you're just dropping a shadow off underneath the guy. You see what I'm saying? Like, each one of the lines on this model were drawn there by an inker, by an artist. So if you don't also draw your lines in like an artist, it's never going to look like it's a comic book. See what I'm saying? Now this version of Daredevil that I grabbed is much brighter than traditional. Like, I saw a lot of pictures on the internet. They use a lot of Photoshop on this. Like, they use a lot of gradients. Where mostly, like, the darkest red you see in this guy's composition is 99% of his real estate and only a skinny orange line. These guys got a little happy in Photoshop with the transitions. I may or may not go that route. We will see. You know what I'm saying? Buzz, no worries. Also, now I'm about to start painting. Make sure that you start adding me, because if it doesn't highlight, I'm not going to see it. War Pigment, what's up, player? Also, I saw Nell in chat. Nell, what's up, girl? So we're just gonna. So for the base coat, we're just gonna take a big step back, real big cone of influence, and we're just gonna rock back. Try to hit as much real estate as guys as we can. We're not trying to establish opacity yet. We're just trying to get consistent coverage. So, like that. So it's not even remotely opaque. And so your job isn't to sit there with an airbrush until it's opaque. Okay? That's a mistake. Your job is to get consistent coverage and develop opacity over time. Now, I do have a slight thicker mix in here than normal, just because I'm going straight over black. So I'm gonna do it again. Open the cone up real wide, and that you're hearing the airbrush kind of struggle to push this heavier mix through. And I'm just being deliberate. I'm moving around, staying in motion. You see now he's redder now. You see? Got a lot of light shining though, so it's not quite that bright. It's more like this. See my hand, my fingers are still like correctly lit, but you see he's a lot darker. So now that I have a couple good base coats established, I'm going to take a little flow improver, throw it in the pot. I'm going to lower the opacity, thin the paint down a little bit more, water, flow improver. And I'm just now with some thinner coats, I'm just going to kind of slowly build up opacity. And this paint is much thinner, less body to it. And I'm just going to cover them in another sheet of that red. I'm just trying to get a nice opaque red base. It's important for the comic, you know? Most Magic, now their brush was sputtering. 100%. Paint was a little too thick. Also, I haven't cleaned the airbrush in a while. So I'm just using my eyes and just making sure that this red base is nice and opaque. Like I said, we don't want too many transitions darker than this, okay? Because even when you look at my reference photo, like any Photoshop transitions they did, the darkest red is like this is like burnt red. So then once it is black, it is straight up black lines. Okay? So that's kind of, we're going comic style. Yeah, it's 0.3 Muzz. So I'm just gonna make sure one last pass. Now I'm probably gonna start cheating now. And so I may do a zenithal highlight just to pop things, but it's not going to stay that way. So bear with me if you've never seen me do any of this kind of weird shit I'm about to do. It's gonna look weird before it doesn't look weird. So I'm gonna dump the pot so it's just some burnt red in the pot still. We're gonna respect the mix before we leave the mix with some bold pyro red. And Bold Power Red is like straight up gangster as shit. There's still some in here. I'm just trying to get it out. But before I go straight to Bold Power Red, I'm always going to do a little respect mix like this, where the two are going to mingle, and it's only going to be a little brighter. Okay? And again, I'm going to add some water in the pot. A little dirty, a little sticky, the airbrush. Ooh, that's not good. This tab is a little sticky right now. Right there. Okay. It's been sitting unclean since before LVO. Again, I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to just create a big cone and just going to shine it straight down. Okay, so we are going to do a bit of a zenithal approach, but it kind of cheaty, like right across his arms. Let it kind of skitter down his chest, cheat it down, tops the legs. Same thing on the back. And it's a little brighter than the burnt red, especially while wet, but it's going to dry. It's not going to be that intense in a second. This is just the respect, okay? This is like allows these two colors to kind of interact before we get too aggressive. Let that settle down for a minute. I'm just gonna hit it with some air. Just help dry it up a little bit. I want a little hand-fisted there. Now I'm just gonna close this picture for now. Rename this. Hey kid, for bacon, what proximal PSI? This compressor maxes out at sub 20, so it's only about 18, 20 PSI. But usually I recommend low 20s. So just hit it up a little bit. I'm going to do another pass. So it's about building opacity. So I'm never painting with paint anywhere remotely opaque enough. So I linger. Once I see the shift happen, I move. Hit it, quit it, hit it, quit it. We're still painting with a shotgun right now. Just one more degree of opacity. Okay, now I'm going to dump the pot. A little water in there. What's left in there is just some dirty paint water. We're going to just pour some red back over it. This is almost empty. So now this is straight Bull Power red. Some water. Put a drop of flow improver in the pizzat. Slows the dry time down. I'm going to take the tip off, expose the needle. Always keep the tip clean, boys and girls. I'm looking for my toothbrush. Oh, there it is. So we're just going to put a little water here on the toothbrush, and what I'll do is I'll just blow air. Pressure wash the needle gently. And I've really thinned the mix down, so I'm going to use my throttler here on my Mr. Hobby airbrush and really restrict how much air is allowed to come out. I'll be a little saturated. Hold on, let me mess with my camera. There we go. So what we're going to do is now we're going to kind of spot highlight with our throttled opacity, with our throttled PSI. I'm going to aim kind of just deliberately on the tops of these muscle groups. Not trying to repaint everything, you see? Kind of just hitting the elements that I think light would penetrate toward. So I'm like literally hitting the deltoid, the bicep, the hand, like separately. Tip of the knee right here. Tip of the knee, bottom of the foot. I'm just stacking the opacity. Okay, just building off of those muscle bellies. Top of the back right here. Just kind of stop right there. We're going to hit the butt cheeks independently. Let's hit the calf down to the ankle. Same thing right here. Okay, so now it's only two reds, okay? It's just burnt red and power red. So the variation in like the value scale between these reds is not that big of it. It's pretty subtle. Okay? That's what we're going for here. Now, I don't want to do ultra red. So normally at this point, I'd start throwing white in the pot and start popping these out further and further, and then I'd come back to the red. I just don't know if I want to do that on this guy. But maybe, I mean, the worst thing that's going to happen is I just throttle it back out. So maybe I'll give it a shot. So let's throw a little, I mean, like nothing bad can happen. It's like actually not a big deal. So we'll do a slight ultra red. Okay, we'll keep it low key. Because the thing is, it's never going to get brighter than that red. That's the end of the journey. So white is brighter than everything. So I'll just pour some white in there. Okay. And now we have bright red. Okay. What I need to do here, though, is I need to really lower the opacity of this and the body of this paint. Okay. So more water, more flow improver. That's like, I want to say, that's more liquid than paint in this spot. It's like 2-1. You know what I mean? I don't know. I might need to go a little thinner. I'm going to put just a little bit more water in there. A little bit more flow improver. Take this cap back off. Always keep that tip clean, guys. So I'm going to really throttle that thing down. I'm using my regulator, my throttle. There we go. Now I want to make sure it's not too speckly. Here we go. So let's see if we can go in here like a surgeon. Okay. I'm never going to take my finger off the trigger. I'm holding it down. I see the transition, I move. See, you're not trying to develop any kind of opacity. What we're doing is just deploying a highlight real quick. You see that? Rotate, cheat the angle in, let it go down his face, let it hit his chest, move down, hit it, quit it. I'm not taking my hand off the trigger. Don't make the mistake of just going on, off. The brush is not an on-off tool. See, it's still on the whole time. Okay? And I'm cheating the angles. A little bicep right there. Right there. Right there. Right there. So that's just one stack, okay? One stack of guaranteed brighter red. That's just brighter. Okay, now obviously it's desaturated and it's not what you want, but it is brighter. That's the thing that matters. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lower the opacity even more. Okay, I'm gonna put more flow improver in there because I want even more control. All right. So when you're airbrushing, it is essentially all about being low in opacity and managing your moisture. So the way you make your opacity lower is by adding moisture. The way you throttle your moisture is by learning how to use your airbrush, which I teach in my private curriculum. Okay, feeling good about that. Tip is a little covered in pink. Let's throttle. So we're going to stack a little bit more opacity, okay? Like a laser pointer, you see? Rotate, turn. Get down his head. You see that? Get a little bit on his face there. Let's skitter down his chest. Stop right about there. Let's get that thigh. We're right there. Okay, it's happening. Now, a lot of times with ultra red, I would go almost to pure white. Okay. Okay, well, we're not going to do that. That's good enough. I'm going to just dump the pot. And I'm going to just rinse some of the moisture out of it because now we have all this white in there. Muzz and War Pigment's having a conversation. Yeah, I think Muzz is brand new because he came over from Sam Lens. But we talk about it a lot here. People are endlessly like afraid that their red's going to become pink. And that's just like a weird cultural thing. Like, look around, things that are shiny and red, the highlights are pink, dog. You know what I mean? But I understand that you're afraid that your red's not going to be vibrant anymore. So the reality is that when white enters a paint or a color, it becomes desaturated. So if you can't wield that you have to be able to wield that, right? Because like the white is brighter, right? Now, a lot of times people are going to grab a yellow and orange. And it's like, well, sometimes yellow and orange isn't even brighter than red. It's just oranger than red. And also, like, in your environment, where's the fucking orange coming from? If it's red and light's hitting it harshly and it's casting a highlight, it's probably going to be pink. Like, where's the orange? Where's the yellow coming from? But I understand that for artistically, we like the way that looks. So there's a way to do that. Because you know what's worse, in my opinion, than this? Like, is if it was all orange. If he was a sunset or a sunrise, that's worse than this to me. But we're not gonna let it ride like that. I'm not dealing in desaturation. I'm exploiting the fact that white is brighter than every other fucking thing to make sure my red is brighter. So now I can do this. Now this could be risky, but the worst thing that's going to happen is I'm like, you know? I'm going to take transparent yellow. Oh, White Turk in the chat. He's the guy who sent me this Daredevil. So a little transparent yellow. Little water. There's still red in the pot. I don't like that. I'm rinsing the pot again. I didn't clean it good enough. Transparent yellow. Little water. And this has really good saturation, but I've really throttled the opacity. So what I'm going to try to do is have that pink take on some of the qualities of this yellow. And this yellow is so low in opacity, it's probably not even going to fucking interact with the red. It's probably going to be like imperceivable where it touches the red. So it could be a mistake. We'll find out. But like, I'm painting with atoms of paint. It's like nothing bad is going to happen here. So I'm going to be very careful. I'm not going to repaint this guy, and I'm going to just aim at the same places we aimed at before. And I'm going to hit it and quit it. Okay? And I'm letting the yellow resaturate our pink. Okay? And the pink is basically the introduction of white, which is brighter. So this yellow is guaranteed to be brighter than the red. Okay? And so we're like slowly filtering that desaturation away. You gotta be careful though, we don't want it to just be, again, a sunrise. Okay? I'm just taking my time. I'm not rushing this. Okay. Now, like I said, it could be a mistake. We'll find out. Now, I do have a lot of light on this guy, so let me back the light off so you can see where we're living. And this is our inspiration. Okay, you see, there's a lot of yellows and oranges in his highlight game, but what's really making this Daredevil stand out is the black, which we have none of that yet. We have none of that right now. Disflux, my man. And also Master Blaster, thank you for the sub, homie. Can I get some strong man? I love the chat from Master Blaster and my boy Disflux. Wyatt, did I start with a pre-shade or just raw airbrush? Just raw airbrush. Just hit it with just fucking burnt red. This flex, hey, you're crazy. He says 3 rhinos. So I'm gonna hit it again. Real careful. And you could, as Wyatt mentioned, he's like, because a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll just paint this guy black and white and then put the red over. Now, remember I mentioned like white will desaturate your red, so will black. So that's a desaturated composition innately. I'm going for a very max saturation finish. So that's why I didn't go that route. Okay, I'm just being real careful here. And I may have to go back a step because it's getting a little yellow for my taste. But I still have a lot of brush work to do. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take a step back. I'm going to rinse the yellow out of my brush. And we're going to go back in time a step. Okay? And that's being like, and that's what I love about the Marvel Crisis models, Wyatt, is that like it's one guy. It's the only Daredevil I'm ever going to need. So I'm going to go, I'm down to crack out. You know what I'm saying? Second. Too much yellow in the pot still. So we're going to go back 2 stops. We're going to go all the way back to the burnt red. Okay? And we're going to use our airbrush like a laser pointer again. Just trying to get the yellow out of there. So burnt red. A little flow improver. Slow the dry time down, a little water. Nothing's wetter than water, baby. We're going to use our toothbrush. Always keep that tip clean. The throttle. Okay, so we're back to burnt red, okay? Most Magic, going to start playing now, right? Oh, 100%. Matt Wellman, my good friend, referenced your Plague Burst crawler tutorial on YouTube, and brother, it looks sweet as fuck. Have you never seen it, Matt? How have you never seen it? Okay, so now I'm going to do... So remember, way at the beginning, our boy Muzz, he mentioned like under shadows. I'm going to do a bit of that now. So I'm going to definitely tilt the model and aim the burnt red under things. And I'm going to let this really low opacity burnt red kind of creep back into the mid-tone. But I'm really trying to control what I'm aiming at. Okay? Because all the black is going to come from my paintbrush. It's not going to come when I airbrush. I'm aiming at his abs right now. Under his bicep, his obliques. Hand under his chin. I'm going to let some of this creep into this thigh. It's a little too yellow there. See, we're just toning down all of that yellow with a little bit of burnt red. And it's like 1% opaque. It's mostly water in there. And I'm still aiming at where I think shadows should be and letting it kind of creep from that into the mid-tone and let it interact a little bit with our yellows. So now you see we've toned it down a lot. Making sure we're looking good here. Make sure, let me check the PSI real quick, my throttle. And I'm getting close to maxing out my laser pointer, you know? And it's really helping us establish that really opaque red. Someone mentioned the yellow armor, the OG. Who was that? That flashed through. But I think I can work with this. I think I can pull the paintbrush out and really work with this. Okay, as my base coat. Now, give me 1 second. Let me rinse the brush out again. Matt Wellman, so for real though, was it the first time you seen the Playbrush Crawler video? Just rinsing all the red out. Tons of it in there. Okay, let me set the airbrush down. Let me just do a quick... I'm going to switch this wet palette out in a second, but before I do that, let me just get a quick base coat established. Because since I have the airbrush right now... Chaotic painting, you're still confused on the squatch? What is it for? Squanching? You got to squanch every 60 minutes or 60 or something. It's a Rick and Morty reference. Just means you're squanching. You got to be kicking it. So what I'm gonna do is grab some coal black. Fuck my worker. Oh, come on. Some black. Maybe even just scoop up some of the dregs of this sky blue. Something like this. And I'm going to just quickly and carefully do a nice opaque kind of one and done on this. I don't know what like the deal is with, I have to look at the box art again, but these are metal for sure, I think. And so, or gray. And so I'm just trying to get a nice, quick, cool gray established using blue, which blue looks really good when infused into black and gray anyway. And man, this thing's a bitch. That's why I'm trying to get it done in like one opaque pass. So that way I can airbrush it. So I'm using pretty light brush pressure, just enough moisture to get the transfer. Don't get it on him, don't get it on him. What a nightmare. But I'm 100% going to use the airbrush to make this thing tight. Joe, Nathan, what's up, man? I'm using mostly the heart pull strategy. God, what a bitch. It's like, stop moving. God. And it's crazy because it's attached to him. Whoops. It's attached to his arm in one, I think. Can't remember actually. I just know it's a bitch. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. Done. Base coat. Okay? God, it is a pain in the ass. More pigment? Anytime I'm moving and trying to pull back to my heart. Anytime I find myself doing that, for, you know. That's the heart pull. Okay. So now, box art on Daredevil, they definitely, I think, painted this thing metal. I don't even know where I fucking put my box. I don't care. I'm painting it the way I'm painting it. I don't care. I'm just rinsing the brush again. I'm going to scoop some of that solution off my palette right into the pot. Maybe a touch of white. Something like that. A little water. A flow improver. All right, so we're gonna have to just be clever about our angles here. So I'm gonna come in from this angle. Like that. We're just going to get most of this whip figured out right now, or this whip nunchuck figured out right now. Okay? Now it's going to get darker here, and then I'm going to make it lighter here. I'm going to just kind of sneak right under his arm. See? Bright, dark, bright. Just make it fun. Sneak in right here. On the turn right here, I'm going to make it bright again. That whole thing. Stop about right there. Rotate, get the other side. Don't forget, try not to, and always, I'm always kind of aiming away from him. So that I'm not getting it on him. Reinforce it. Let's reinforce it right here. Rotate. Or if we just give it a sub to Muz. Some man loving the chat right there for my man War Pigment. Let me just throw a little bit more moisture in the pot. Slow him to face. That's right, baby. So now we just got a nice, interesting variation in design. I'm going to throw a little bit right here. I'm going to put a drop of white in the pot. Maybe more than a drop. It's still got blue in it, which is based off that coolness that we created. Let's make sure the tip is clean. Just a little bit right there. Right there. Right there. Ping, ping, ping. Ping, ping, ping. Right there. Ping. Ping, ping. All right, just get that out. Just get that out of the way right now. We're airbrushing. Never have to look at it again. You keep seeing a robot face in my paper, Love Minis. I still have not bought new construction paper. I've been lazy. All right, let's set up. Let's get rid of the airbrush. Let's pull out the old paintbrush. Rinse some of this paint out of here. Done, done, done. Airbrushing gets you to the fun stuff fast. I'm gonna toss this palette. I'm gonna get a new parchment out.
It's so damn hot.
Frozen Hobbit.
Milk was a bad choice.
Frozen Hobbit. Let me get some strong man love in the chat for Frozen Hobbit. Hooking a brother up. Is that also a 4x multiplier? 92 bonus Odogs, and my man Frozen Hobbit says, buy construction paper, you hobo. Okay. It is turning into a Rorschach black War Pigment. Love minis. Yeah, sure. Sure sign you like robots. Oh, no. Did not pay attention. It's all good. Just a little black from underneath. It'll ride. Let's put a little burnt red down here. And I may use a little transparent black just because it's blacker. Where's my transparent black at? I know I've got an open pot. There it is. Moz, thank you for the follow, brother. Makes sense now that you're a subscriber, right? Oh my god. Is this empty? Oh, I've got it. Well, I already opened one. Come on, I can't have like 4 of these open again. Fine. Oh, this is already open. So here's a little transparent black. Now, move some of this out of the way. All right. Which one is my new one? Damn it, I can't tell. I'm just looking at my X10s. Trying to figure out which one's my new one. This one? Or this one? Fuck, I don't know. Who cares? I'm over it. We are going to see if we can make some fucking dark lines appear. So basically we're going to pin wash this guy to start with. So let's just throw a little water down on the wet palette. And so we're using the darkest red we've used, which is this red. And we're going to just put a little black in it. We're going to start this way. This is respect. Okay? We're going to kind of sketch out some shadows, but it's only a little darker to start with. Semi-opaque and a little wet. Okay, and I'm going to move in here and just use the tip of my brush, utilizing mostly the heart pull. So tip of brush, pull back. And I messed up a little bit there. That's why we respected it. Because I didn't go all the way heart pull there, so I was lazy. Little got where I didn't want, but when you respect it, it's not a big deal. If you're just coming in with straight black, that would be a big deal. And that's why I take a second to establish respect. See, and you can kind of deliberately be a little lazy when you're respecting it. And what we're doing is just manually making dark things darker to establish some contrast. And I'm looking for the easy approach where I can use the tip and move straight back to my heart. War Pigment, my dude. Can I get some strong man love from my boy War Pigment? He's got Death Star, 2x multiplier, 46 bonus Yodogs. Cut it in half and count the rings. The one with more rings is the older brush. Fair. Thank you. Thank you. Now again, it's just slightly darker. And we're going to just move around and make things that we think need to be darker, darker. Semi-opaque and a little wet. So this is a pin wash strategy. And it's going to blend in really well. Get up under his chest. Some abs right there. A line in his uniform. Okay. His actual D's are pretty clean and there's a nice line around them. So I can get inside that border right now. He's got some folds in the fabric. Using the heart pull, we're just gonna get those fabric folds curated. Get inside right here where his bicep ends. See, I'm just gonna kind of highlight out or just pull attention out to the bicep. Again, there are fabric folds here. I'm gonna get inside of. Same thing. Let's get his bicep kind of contoured out right here. Fabric folds. War Pigment just gifted a sub to Level of Detail. What's up, guys? Now, let me come in from the top angle. Let's get that shoulder armor right here. Building that respect. Back here, you can see a little tricep action right here. Some fabric folds right here. Here you can get deep into the back and just drag these lines down. There we go. There we go. Looking good. This contour continues down to his butt and thigh. So this red, while low opacity, is the darkest red we've deployed yet. Because we put a touch of black in it. So we're just building our respect now, and then we'll get more and more harsh as we go. Right there. War Pigment, so many cool new people here tonight. Yeah, we got a raid from Sam Lenz. If you're still tuning in after the Sam Lenz lays, shout out yourself in chat so I can say hi. So, a little bit of hamstring definition here. He's jacked. Some fabric folds. Fabric folds right here. You can see his quadricep is quite jacked. So we're going to slice that quad right there. Slice it right here. See if we can rotate. Looking for the heart pull strategy. Right there. Separate the knee armor from the rest. There we go. There's the uniform pleat right there. And this muscle is not, he's not bending this knee, so it doesn't have as much definition. There's some fabric folds right up here. Using the heart pull, catch them. And we're just being careful, okay? He's got some straps. What color are the straps? The straps also red? Is it like just red on red on red for Daredevil? It's fucking gnarly. More pigment. Did Sam do a more realistic version of the gas mask guy? Which gas mask guy? I mean, Sam does everything usually more realistic. Most magic. Had to AFK for a second. What am I using for the pin wash? Just the original dark red with a little bit of black. Respect, respect, respect. Semi-opaque and a little wet. Sneak in here. A little bit under his helmet right there. There's some more of those sweet lines right here. Be careful. So now we've taken a second to just kind of do a quick once over, and we made a lot of his dark stuff darker. Okay? Now we can start really pushing the pace on it, though. My next level painting gas mask guy. Oh, you're thinking of Kalini. Kalini did that for me. So it's red on red. So everything's red. So like his belt is, his little belt buckles are red. Everything.
50% of the enforcers have been knocked down. Neurofield activated. Serial number deleted. The revolution is imminent. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
All right, it's time to get a little bit more crazy, and this will get more ambitious, and there may be more mistakes. But we haven't done any highlighting yet, so the highlighting is typically the eraser. So don't get obsessed with mistakes. So we just added a lot more black. So this is still not even close to black. Okay, it's still pretty respectful. It's just the next tier of respect. Okay. And that's going to go on pretty easy because we already built the first path, you know, the runway. Semi-opaque and a little wet. Okay. Using mostly the tip of our brush. Looking for ways to pull a line straight back to our body. The heart pull strategy. But I'm being a little bit more deliberate now. Less lazy. Now those uniform lines are awesome. They're very, very subtle. And we're gonna have to clean those up with our edge highlight. We're just gonna keep jactifying the image, keep sharpening the image. Oh, see, I'm always taking a second to rotate. I'm looking for that pathway, right? That easy pullback. This one is gonna be risky right here. So I have to go kind of an opposite of what I'm comfortable with. Pow, pow! Kinetic painting. For the comic book art, it's all red on red except the DD. From what I can tell, there's some concept art uses some black. What is the DD supposed to be? Is it the DD just brighter red? Or is it yellow or something? What is it? Some folds right there in the fabric. Is it black? What does my art have? It's hard to tell. Seems like they do it different ways, different times. Let's roll it up. See if we can move in here. Get these shoulders. There's like some subtle fabric folds I was missing on over here. Yikes. These are going to be tricky. I'm going to go down back to burnt red for a second. And I'm pin washing some of these fabric folds more with burnt red. On the top there. Real subtle. Real subtle stuff. BCO47, thank you for the follow. Hyper black or hyper saturated red? That's what I saw. I saw some saturated reds. It's either bright red or black. That's what I'm seeing. Confirmation. So we have a little leeway there. Okay, back muscles. Okay, semi-opaque and a little wet. Just kind of contouring them right now. So now he's looking way sharper. Okay. Let's go with black. So now we can start getting kind of crazy. So let's take some transparent black. I think now we can get kind of ambitious. Okay. We built, I think, enough respect that I can get in there now. Okay, and I'm not gonna like do everything this harsh of a black, but we're definitely do some stuff. We're gonna be very mindful. Gonna use a lot of mental effort now. As we bring in just a little bit of transparent black, some water. See, now I'm getting that peck lining right there. We're just kind of going over it all over again, but a little bit more selective. Taking some artistic liberties in some areas. So that red, the D has some nice outlines. I'm definitely gonna probably go with the red, the super bright red. I like the red on red challenge, you know. I like that challenge, you know, like it's not as easy. More pigment. But I said I'd still be very tempted to just shoot up figure and using the airbrush with the dark translucent blue. Now, blue is dope, and that's a deliberate workup, which I do videos on, but again, this shit is essentially hard black ink, red with some like yellow built in. So I'm channeling this style right here. I've got dozens of videos on how to do all sorts of different interesting, intriguing things with red. And we're gonna crack out on this guy and really channel this comic vibe. And a lot of this is gonna come from what we do with the highlights. Right now we're just setting the stage, right? We're sharpening the image by making the dark stuff darker. And then we're gonna clean things up and make it hyper HD when we bring the edges back in. So we want to start really challenging the notion of how black we're willing to go on these shadows. And a lot of his muscle is there in the sculpt. It's just not like how GW does it. So I'm being a little artistically ambitious with how I'm slicing in these muscle groups. Like, I'm definitely making his bicep more jacked than the model would suggest right now. Again, let's get this nice pec line. Right there. And there's some subtle indicators of some obliques on this side. And I'm just kind of going with the flow. Right there. Sorry, a little close. And we're trying to get like essentially the sharpest image possible. That's the reason. That's the reason for line art. You do line art for that sharp image. Now, some places where it's a little more highlighted, and we're putting the black lines, it gets a little deteriorated. We're just gonna have to make sure that when we come back and for the HDification process, we adjust that. Zero Meyer, what up, player? Wish I could stay, but 2:30 a.m. comes pretty freaking quick, man. Much love, brother. Thank you for the resub, Zero Meyer. Legend, old schooler right there. And oh lordy. Because these black lines are only half the battle, okay? You're only half the battle, son. We've made plenty of mistakes, too, that need to get cleaned up. Let's rinse the brush. Okay. So now, in certain muscle groups, like we can go with just like a hard opposing edge highlight, which I will do, undoubtedly. But right now, let me grab a little bit of Bold Pyro. Come on, man. There we go. Get a little flow improver on the palette. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this Bold Pyro. Rinse my brush better than that. And I think I can use a combination of these two to kind of sweeten the pot, as it were. Some of these real pieces, like for example, this bicep right here. Let's get a little bit of let's lower the opacity of the Bold Power Red a little bit. I mean of the burnt red. I'm just gonna lay down a kind of a loose, wet version of that. Pick up some Bold Power Red. Just right there in the center of the bicep. And these are both low opacity, and I'm just gonna let them mingle with each other. These are the same colors we already airbrushed on the model. Okay? So I'm doing is now I'm gonna just kind of like pretend I'm airbrushing smaller areas. right there. And then I'll take some of that Bold Pyro, stipple it right in, sewing machine stroke right there. And now it's like I took a tiny airbrush and just shot it right into his bicep right there. Because when we airbrushed it initially, there was, you know, a limit to how small I can get. I'm going to do some more Bold Power right here. Kind of a second stack. A little bit of burnt red right here. So just kind of smoothing those biceps out to be a little bit more jacked. I'm going to move up to this forearm right here. Using the burnt red, I'm going to create like a donut around it. Rinse it down, take some of the Bold Pyro. You see, I'm just kind of creating a kind of a better, more flawless, saturated, kind of segmented piece of drama, right? Like I just only did his forearm. Okay, and it's not opaque. It's still pretty transparent. So this is such a shortcut because I'm like kind of pretending I'm wet blending, but I'm really just cheating. So like right here, here's our donut of burnt red, of low opacity burnt red. And here's going to be our donut, or our inner donut of Bold Pyro. Okay. And you're going to start to see the actual pieces that construct his arm are all going to start taking on their own drama. Like right there, just put a little Bold Pyro. And I'm going to just bring a little burnt red in to smooth that out. Right there. See that? So like each section is going to get dramatized. And while I'm dramatizing these sections, we're going to be kind of slowly cleaning up our black lines. See, there's a little bit of burnt red, low opacity. Little pyro right here. Let's move in a little bit more opacity right here, a little bit more punch. Right there. Let's take some of that burnt red, and just kind of blend it right in. Section by section. See that? And now what I'm going to do is don't forget his hand. Because this is just one guy, man. Like, I mean, he's the only Daredevil I'm ever going to make. So it's like I want to make sure he's super tight. So let's go right here. So I'm going to go more opacity, less moisture right here. Kind of tuck it into those muscles I faked. Those are my black lines. So I kind of made that muscle group occur. Here's some low opacity red again, right over that orangey yellow. So it's taking it off that yellow. There's a little burnt red right here. Get a little blend. Wow. So you see now we're getting our reds back in the game, right? And we're stealing some of that value from that kind of like that orange yellow spectrum. Because we want to be careful not to take Daredevil too far from the dark red place. So I'm going to kind of do just this half real quick. Here's some low opacity burnt red or bow power right here. Kind of just painting by numbers here. Let's get a little bit more opacity on there. I'm going to be very careful. More opacity, less moisture. Be a little flow improver. A little trick here. There's like a fucking hair in my brush. So what I'm trying to do is do like some shelf highlights, like these on these panels. Right there. See, that's just the same bold pyro, just stacking the opacity higher. See, I'll hit these little folds. Like so. We're right there. Right there. Now, I'm really going to focus on this arm at first, and then we'll do a whip session, and then we'll run back and do the rest of them. So I'm doing the top shelf on this muscle group right here. I'll quickly switch over to burnt red. Smooth it out. I'm even going to go all the way back to black for a split second. Make sure we have those lines still in there. Okay. Now, I'm gonna show you guys what the end game is gonna be. So let's take some bold power or bold titanium white. I'll take some bold titanium white. Mix it in with some bold power red. Make that crazy pink. High opacity, low moisture. Okay, so I'm gonna just focus on a heart pull. Too much moisture. I switched back to the other brush thinking it was my better brush. Maybe it's not. So here, this is important. Top shelf highlight. Using the heart pull right there. Let's rotate here. We're gonna just do a quick, like almost a comic book line, basically, like right here. Let's say it this way. We're gonna do a quick top shelf right here. Here. And we're gonna do a little bit more of that line in a second, but let's get a little bit of this mix, a little bit more respect. Let's go to his hand real quick. Get some knuckles right there. I'm gonna take some more bowl power. I'm gonna make the mix less white and kind of just build a donut around this line right here. Right there. So what I'm doing is I'm going back in time to bowl pyro and making some of these lines a little bit more subtle. But I'm not like wiping them out, okay? So now my man is Professor Swolstein over here. You see this? Okay. And so we're taking a lot of artistic liberty here. We'll take some burnt red into the mix. And just like subdue some of these lines I just drew in here. Okay. Now, like I said, there's some new people in chat. A lot of people know what I'm about to do, but there's going to be some new people who don't. And so what we're going to do is what we did earlier with the airbrush. I'm going to take some yellow again, transparent yellow, some water, lower the opacity of this yellow. Remember, in the comic books, he's got these nice, clean, almost yellow-orange highlights. So this is how we do it. Now I'm going to kind of just glaze right over those lines. Like so. So we have this very saturated red with some nice transitions, but we never let the red get too bright because Daredevil's not that bright. And then we take it away from red briefly by adding white, and then we take it to yellow with a little glaze tech. Okay? And we're like literally 1% opaque on yellow, so we build it up casually. And then now our dude is just like intensely contrasted. Like he's just like, shapow! You see? And that's what I was saying is like it's gonna all come down to the highlights to really oppose these dark lines you created. To really channel the like over the top lines. And I made up a bunch of these lines. So we'll continue that throughout the whole model. Like how we curated that up there. That's going to be how jacked everything is. Swole as fuck. Now, you can always go back in time to the Bull Power Red. Same thing, lower the opacity, maybe take some of the excess moisture off. And you can use this in the mid game to patch up any distortion you don't like. Okay, now also, I can go all the way back to the black again. So I'll take a tiny bit of black on the brush, transparent black. I feel like I need to recut some of this black in. Right there. And that's how we're gonna do it. And you can see that, man, where the fuck is this box? Did I like throw it on the ground? Oh, it's right here. You can see it's like they tried, right? You can see where they put some hard highlights. There's some shadows. You see they're doing a lot of the same things I'm doing. You see there's an under highlight, shadow, right? Line, under highlight. Hard line, under highlight. You see? Hard line. So they're doing almost the exact thing I'm doing. You see? On the box art. But you can tell, like, one doesn't look like the other. You know what I'm saying? It's like they just stopped. And also, like, it's a little dirty. You know? Like, and comic books don't look dirty. Comic books are like as graphically perfect as it gets. You know? Not one line out of place. And so, like, that's kind of like what I'm checking is like, I don't want there to be any lines out of place. Like, what are there, 50 models in the entire Marvel Crisis Protocol range? I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, if I were to paint them all, I'd paint them all baller as shit. There's like 50 guys in my army. Oh yeah, I forgot down here. We'll take a little bowl pyro down in the obliques, right there. So I want that extreme sharpness. And I feel like they, you know, the Marvel Crisis models just don't really channel. It could be sharper, like the way that they paint the box art. And I would actually, the way I would paint these Ds would actually be, I would take pure white, actually, I think. I'm using semi-opaque and a little wet. Very light brush pressure, being really cognizant of the heart pull and the path of the line. And so I'll use stipples when you need to. It is not easy though, man. That D is like embedded in him. Those Ds. I love that his shit is just literally 2Ds. It's like, he's like, fuck, I'm blind, dog. I don't give a fuck about graphic design. So I want to make them white first, and then we'll make them brighter red. So we're just going to cheat that value, right? Muzz came from Sam Les, but I've really enjoyed this. Thank you so much. It's 23:20 GMT and after work. Thank you. Oh, have a good weekend, brother. Thank you for stopping by. Giggle Moosin, couldn't you have done this in like 10 minutes with contrast paints? Oh, yeah, for sure. Like this exact result. 100%. I'm just, I just like taking longer. Like I need to make up content because like, contrast paints just like kind of does it all. So like, I really don't have a job anymore, so I have to pretend I do. That's right, Talon. Gotta put some D's and some A's. So we're just carefully building out the structure of the D's, sewing machine stroke when needed. Being as careful as possible. Just let it dry for a minute. You see there's actually some fabric kind of in between them right here. And here, I'm just gonna dab some VOL.I on now. Professional competence. What's up, man? It's easy to always remember what the letter D looks like. Could you imagine him having to draw a giant Punisher symbol in gasoline? Oh my god. You're right. Okay, let's take some VOL.I red, lower the opacity a little bit. Same red that we've been using the whole time. See that? Pow, pow, pow! Let's take a little of that transparent yellow. Right there. Ping, ping. And we'll just keep moving around. So we've got a whole hour left in the show. We're going to do a whip session. If you're new here, exclamation point whip, join in on the action. We are going to take a look at what you guys worked on all week, and we're going to continue the jactification process of Daredevil. And we're going to make this section every section. Momentum's going to be crisp AF. And as you can already see, it's better than the box art. It's exactly what they're trying to do in the box art, but better. No disrespect to the artist. You paint, they have a better. I mean, no disrespect for the box art. It's not hard to beat the box art for Marvel Crisis. So let's move across his torso, okay? And the step that we're in. So let's get some of these fabric lines real quick. Let's just get a little white, a little red. Let's rotate. Tip of the brush. A little flow improver. Being real careful. I keep forgetting which brush is bad and which one's good. So we're just trying to be careful. The thing is, if I make any mistakes, I can fix it easily. We're just doing some under like shelf highlighting. Trying to use as much tip action as I can. So always take a second to rotate, look for that extreme steep angle. Just a little bit of white mixed into the Bold Power red. We have to do other things over here. We can't get too ahead of ourselves. Okay, we're just playing with the concept of red and white, okay? We're going to move in right here, get the uniform line. Right there. We're going to just put like a top shelf highlight on some of these fake lines we drew. Get a little bit more red in the mix, a little bit more respect. We'll ride this rail with a little tracer technique on the belt. Move in right here, get this uniform line. With the rebuild some black, we want to get kind of top shelf on this D right here. Okay, let's rinse the brush. Mr. Impending Duff in chat, fellow member, Long War TV stream team. What's up, brother? Let's get a little transparent yellow. Actually, let me rinse some more red off the brush. Let's get a little bit more yellow out. My yellow kind of dried up a little bit. And we're just going to take some transparent yellow and resaturate some of these lines we just did deliberately.
Ooh, baby, I like it raw. Yeah, baby, I like it.
Yo, that's my man Recoil. Can I get some strong man love in the chat for Recoil, the true legend? Say hi to his mom. Top 3 best moms of the game. Tied. 3-way tie. Recoil, thank you so much. 7x multiplier for Recoil. That is 161 bonus donuts. Recoil, I do appreciate your support. Recoil. Just a little bit of transparent yellow. A little bit of deliberate action. As we yellow up these highlights. And the important thing is that you remember that they're highlights. It's really hard to take yellow and think you're going to paint it over red, and it's actually going to fucking highlight the red. It's probably just going to make the red more orange. But if you just throw a little white down first, like so, now you get it. You see what's happening. We had some new viewers today seeing this for the first time. Now, anywhere your lines get away from you, don't hesitate to just go back to Bold Pyro Recoil. Lower the opacity a little bit, get a little water on there. Take some excess moisture off. And right here, I can just kind of move back into the mid-tone and fix any irregular line shape to these highlights. I'm looking for perfect lines. That's the goal here. It's a comic book image. It's all about perfect lines, man. So just knocking those down. Let's get a little bit more red back in the Daredevil D's. The double D's. Presented as a brighter set of red. But he is essentially red on red on red. That's his situation. And so it's just about cutting in as much contrast as possible. Duff says, doing good, man. Just getting ready to DM the monthly D&D game. Fuck yeah, dude. Talon, moms really are the dopest ladies. Facts. Recoil, appreciate you too, man. Terma Cheese, what's up, brother? Now let's go back in time because there's a couple places where it can use some more black lining. So I'm going to take a little bit of transparent black back on my brush. And I mess up sometimes, right? So I got to go back. A little transparent black. Because I want those black lines to be very aggressive. There we go. Now, there's stuff we did on this arm that we haven't done on this one yet. Because this one still has like the dusting of yellow. So we have to go back to our wet palette, get some water. Let's get some burnt red, which it's only burnt red in Bold Pyro. So what we need to do is like lower the opacity of this to like a semi-opaque wet state. And we're going to do a little wet glazing here, okay? We're going to just create it like a bit of a donut around the perimeter of this thing. Okay. Rinse the brush super quick. Take a little bold power back on the brush. And we're going to just jam some in the middle using some stippling. It's very wet and it's going to just mingle with that burnt red, but it's not opaque. It's going to still be informed subtly by those kind of top coat yellows. But this dude is like, his whole thing is he's mostly just dark red with some extreme highlights. I want to get a little bit of transitions in there, so we did what we could with the airbrush, and now we're just using it as a paint by numbers tool to go into the muscle groups with some wet glazing and make sure we have a little dark red moving into a little bright red, a little dark red, bright red. And we're leaning heavy on the black lines we drew and the extreme highlights we're working on. Now there's a lot of fabric folds on this one. So this one we're gonna just do a quick little bit of bold power right here. Very wet, move it around. Rinse it down, pick up a little burnt red. We're really looking for like maximizing that red opacity. And now I'm just able to kind of go section by section, paint by numbers. And really just kind of maintain some nice red saturation. Let's get a little bit more bold power right here. Make sure we have a nice radial burst right there. Right there. Right there. Right there. And so we're just trying to really make sure it's super red. Just kind of focusing down on that mid-tone. Semi-opaque. Tiny dog alert. And we gotta reinstall a couple of fabric lines. Also top of the hand here. Throw a little bold power red in. A little burnt red. Stipple that right in. Now, let's run back to the black. With some heart pooling. Just a little transparent black. A little bit of additional moisture added. And there's some fabric lines right here. You want to keep it a nice extreme angle. Damn, did I get water here? Gotta be careful. A little bit of black right here. Connect the bicep. Connect the bicep separator from the tricep. Right there. Now, it gets a little tricky because there is indeed so many fabric folds. Got a lot of very subtle wrinkles in the fabric. Press it down. It's got a little thin down bold pyro. Take some excess moisture off. Let's just do kind of a second saturation right here. Now, he's got some folds right in the bicep in a place I hate. Right there. Okay, let's bring in some crispy highlights. We're going to take some bold power red and some white. Keeping the opacity high, moisture high, or moisture low, sorry. We're going to carefully run into a heart pull right here. Top shelf highlight on the bicep. Right there. We're going to go right here on this pauldron a little bit. Just a little bit. Okay. Now, the fabric folds, tricky. I'm just going to catch them subtly. Let's move up here. Let's rotate the position. And we want to be careful. Get these fabric lines. Fingers. Now I want to do a little, I did it before, and I think I need to do it right here too. Just kind of a little highlight right here. Let's add more red to the mix. We're using this to fuzz up the line a little bit. Let's rinse it down. Let's take a little bit of that transparent yellow we've been using, and let's just carefully redraw these lines with a little bit of that yellow so it pops off that white infusion. Get them in those fabrics. Just very procedural. Just pay attention to detail here. maximum saturation. The darkest red is burnt red. The brightest red is Bull Power red. So there's only like one red basically. Very subtle transition. All the darkest shadows are almost pure black. All the brightest lines are almost yellow, which is kind of on brand with what what Daredevil, this kind of like image of Daredevil is. And that's what we're going for. Now I'm going to take a little bit more transparent black. And we're going to use the tip of our brush again. Go back into that heart pull situation. Tip of the brush right here. And I want to blackify some of these lines that caught some highlights by accident. So that's just a little transparent black, little moisture. Just being very careful, just extreme tip. Comics are about like really perfect lines, you know? I'm going to take some burnt red, and so I'm going to establish a little bit of respect. So burnt red back in with the black, so it's not totally black. And I'm going to use that here in these fabric folds. And really just slice them down. Got a couple right there, which I hate. I hate them being on his bicep like that. Rinse the brush. Let's take a little bit more yellow. Shout out to Jack Dempsey, 55 months, what a legend. Just yellow that spot up a little bit more. Let me get a little bit more white actually. I'm gonna cheat this by adding a little bit of white to the yellow. High opacity, low moisture. I'm just gonna drop off a couple of more aggressive, just cling, cling, cling. Move up here. Gonna reload the tip. It's rough because like those fabric, it goes right across his bicep to his triceps, so that really frustrates me. Here's a little bit more yellow. Kind of work this out a little bit. I'm even going to take a little Bull Power red, thin that down a little bit. Pow! I'm using the X10 brush Love Minis. I feel like it's actually not great for this. I think I'd rather use one of my synthetic 18-0s. It frustrates me a little bit. Okay, let's go right here. Let's go hard. So let's get a little bit of Volpyrol, water it down. Right there, rinse it. Take a little burnt red. Right there. So what I'm doing is just kind of resaturating this little piece with really low opacity red. Same red we used when we airbrushed initially. Right there, that's the bright red. Here is the dark red. Just real low opacity, pretty wet. You see it's just kind of snapping that saturation back in. Now let's just skip a couple steps. Let's grab some white and Bold Pyro red. Let's make that pink because we only have about 3 minutes left. So I gotta get a little of this leg done. So let's do a nice top shelf right here. So that's like top of muscle group. Right there. A bit right here. This is kind of hard to access this. This is not easy. Let me get a little bit more Bold Power red right there. Yo, Doc Jameson with 2.5 minutes left, 40 months. My love, dude. What's up, brother? Yo, Love Minis, thank you so much. She's, oh, look out. Love Minis throwing down some support. Appreciate it. A legendary mod. Now look, some aggressive lines right there, okay? Let's run it back to a little Bold Pyro for Love Minis, who's put some overtime on the clock. Here's a little bit of thin down Bold Pyro. I'm going to smooth out some of that line. Actually, let me get some burnt red. Let me rinse it. See, because up here I got more burnt red, so let's take a little bit of burnt red. If I hope I have enough time. Kind of re-curate that line shape. Right there. Let's rinse it. Again, Love Minis gave us 1:28 on overtime. Let's grab that transparent yellow. Let's carefully kind of redo those lines. Some transparent yellow. And make those yellow highlights actually work for us. Well, cool. What up, brother? Let's rinse the brush. Still 48 seconds in overtime. He says, hey guys, loving the stream. Thank you, but cool. Let's grab a little bit of Bold Pyro again. Lower the opacity. And let's just kind of blend that line into the red a little bit better right there. You can see like how jacked he looks. Like model is actually not that jacked. We're making him look that jacked with our black lines and edge highlights.
It's time to get swifty.
We're still in overtime, ladies and gentlemen, because of Mostro Morty.
Oh yeah.
Let me get some strong man love from my boy Mostro Morty.
Shit on the floor.
Putting us back in 2.5 minutes. NWO. That's 23 bonus Yo Dogs to Mostro. Thank you so much. I hope you feel better soon. Okay, hold on. I want to get this down a little further. It's tricky, Mostro. Man, it's tricky. It's tricky, brother. Thank you so much, though. Give me that extra time I needed. Now, up here, this is where it gets kind of wily, right? Because we're going to do red belts. And there's not much visible through everything. So we're just throwing some pink highlights down now. And we got to resaturate that real estate. We have a minute left. Let's grab some Bold Power Red. And let's just kind of lightly resaturate. Man, it's just red on red. And I love the challenge of having to paint somebody who's just red, 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 red. Because it's hard to get that contrast. You're going to have to rely heavily on these values. You see? And I like that. It's fun. It's challenging. 26 seconds left in overtime. Seven seconds left in overtime. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There it is. And I just want to get this last bit done up here. Okay, rinse it down, rinse it down. Tyler, I think I'm going to win Valentine's Day. What'd you say here? Wife is about sparkling water, but our Kroger is always sold out of flavors. So you bought a soda stream. Ooh, she's going to love that shit, brother. Yeah, let's take the transparent yellow from Mostro Morty. He's recently been down. He's down for the count right now, just resting. Says he's sore as fuck. I appreciate you kicking it with us today. As we just kind of yellow up some of those highlights like we've been doing. Let's go back in time for Mostro Morty to black again. Let's make sure there's a nice black line under the belt. Gotta lift it, generate that contrast. As you can see, now look how much more visible it just became. Let's grab a little bit more Bold Pyro. There. And you just got to keep kind of wrapping around it, right? We got to keep moving that system around. You see like how strong our black lines look, how clean they look. We're going for that comic book perfection. You know, a lot of people, they take these models, do a zenithal, do some light glazing with the airbrush. Maybe they do a wash. Nothing wrong with that. You know, you got your models looking good, but these models are not like GW models. They're not really that. They don't have those deep furrows. They have subtle lines. So in order to get that graphic feeling of like hyper, like pure saturation, right? Comic book character, like, has the luxury of being like, hey, this is the Pantone red. That's the red. You know, it's that's how it looks. And so we're trying to maintain the saturation, which I know I'm not always that obsessed with the saturation. But you have to sacrifice some of the drama, but he has subtle drama still, just like our picture does. And that picture is a more dramatic Daredevil than most of the pictures I found on the internet, with AKA more transition. There's more delineation between the reds. So we have a little bit of delineation between our reds, bold power, burnt red, bold power, burnt red. Strong, almost yellow top highlights, very black lines. So the red becomes brighter in contrast to the black. So this model, like, if you painted it red and washed it, it just would never look like that. Right? And you saw when we pin washed it, those lines are not that deep, so the pin wash must have just go everywhere. So we had to build it and cultivate it. We spent about 2 contact hours on this model, and we're like pretty far along, right? Tomorrow we're going to be like 99% done with him. 4 hours. And he's going to look just so fucking comic book, so fucking dope. You know? When you see, like, this is the box art, again, not to throw the box art under the fucking bus or anything. They're doing a good job. And I see they actually did a better job on Bullseye, in my opinion, than Daredevil. And I think it's the composition. Daredevil's composition is challenging. And because he has that, like, heavily pleated armor in this, he's actually kind of tricky. And so you see they're doing exactly what I'm doing. See where I'm putting my highlights? They're doing the same shit. Look. It's just that they're unable to channel that, like, line perfection. And a lot of it is falling apart because the black lines don't exist. You know? So I feel like we can get this guy done in less than 6 hours of painting. Utilizing these strategies, which, you know, are definitely more time consuming than using speed paint or contrast paint like Rob Bear does. But if I can crank a guy out like this every 6 hours for my Crisis Protocol fucking army, I'll feel a lot better about my life. Doesn't seem like a game that I need to worry about my time investment and how long I'm spending on my 5 guys. You know? I love these models. They're challenging, admittedly. This is not that easy. It's not like when we're doing a GW model. I'm like, this is secretly fucking easy. This is challenging. These models are challenging. But if you utilize the techniques that I'm always talking about, the correct brush posture, the opacity, the moisture manipulation, respect is a big one about these. If you channel the respect, it's easier than it would appear, is the best I can say. You know, getting your lines that crispy, that might be a back and forth process. You might lock the lines down and have to go back to the midfield. And I've done that several times on this. You know, but at the end, I think I'm going to have a piece that's going to be just sick. You know, Daredevil pop and Thingy Disco. And it's like I was talking about earlier. You know, when I got Thanos, I didn't fuck around. You know, like, it's the same protocol, but Thanos is cheaty because he's so big. But we're doing this, we're able to do a lot more volume on him in his muscles because it's okay if Thanos' blues go from almost black to almost white. That's fine. Daredevil, it's not appropriate for his reds to get that much brighter. He's dark red. That's his canon. So we're able to, like, kind of cheat on Thanos with that, the volume and those muscle bellies. But we use the same strategies, you know? So I think if you utilize the next level painting technique, like our actual techniques, like, we accidentally made the best Thanos on the internet. You know what I'm saying? Like, just using our techniques. Like, I didn't set out to make the best Thanos on the internet, but I haven't seen one on Instagram that's better. And I usually don't say that about my shit. You know what I mean?